Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes to really wherever our whims take us. Today, continuing on the tour of meeting people, we met Supergirl, so why not meet Superwoman, who is another character who has been several people. But first, before anyone, she was Lois Lane. She took on the moniker long before the crime syndicate and multiverse stuff. Things got a little bit confusing there though, because even though Earth 3 Superwoman was meant to be an evil alternate Wonder Woman in function, she still seemed to be Lois. And the New 52, she was like a fusion of Wonder Woman and Lois. Which I mean made the affair with Alexander Luthor make a lot more sense. But her having Lex's baby that becomes the avatar for the next Darkseid, that's a story for another day. Today we're going back to the Golden Age in the 40s to meet Lois Lane as Superwoman for the first time. She first appeared in Action Comics number 60 back in 1943. And you're gonna be stunned or taken aback, or at least take note of how different 40s Lois is from 50s and 60s Lois. But before we get started, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and join us on this comic book journey. No one knows which way we're going. Not even me. The cover is a wartime one. Superman delivering supplies to troops, because well, 1943. So our splash page acts as our cover for Superwoman. Superman by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. For years, Clark and his identity as Superman has been saving Lois Lane from peril after peril. All this time, Lois has always had to play the role of damsel in distress. Note the phrasing there. Had to. There were people who were aware of the tropes at play at the time and who didn't necessarily love them. In terms of Lois, there had actually long been a push to make her more than just a love interest or a damsel in distress for Superman. There had even been a radio serial where she had been meant to learn his secret identity and be his partner. But that was deemed as something that would ruin the fantasy for young boys. Yeah, I mean, who wants an equal that can help you do stuff and be your confidant? It's much better to be constantly distracted by someone who could take themselves out by tripping over a rock or, you know, chewing on some hard candy. Don't worry though if you felt this was a bit too forward. The narration box is about to get back inside its box. But women are unpredictable beings. That's right, it's crazy. Could you imagine what would happen if Lois were to unexpectedly find herself gifted with superhuman strength? You're right, anything could happen, but you can't save me. Oh no? Guess again. I admire the commitment, going full damsel pose with Superman. Also, I don't hate this costume. Makes her arms look buff. Lois Lane never misses arm day. Our story opens with Clark pestering Lois to find out how she feels about him, although he really should know. I mean, in both guises he should know. Lois, I hate to be insistent, but won't you please tell me once and for all if you care for me? I like you, Clark, but how could I really care for a man like you when I've associated with someone as confident, outspoken, and assertive as Superman? I'll care for you when you're like Superman, which will be never. And so Clark went home and made himself a lasagna, for one. Also, as mean as that was, he asked and she told him. Done. Full stop. She was blunt, as Lois Lane tends to be, and he will not let it go. He starts with protests of, but no man could be like Superman even though I am him. And his insistence is so much that she's just hurrying to get away from him, and so she hurries into the street. There's no sense in talking further with you. Goodbye. And because of this, she walks into the street without looking and seemingly gets hit by a truck, but in that kind of censored way where it hit her, but she's still pristine and has no injuries and looks gorgeous. She looks so pale and helpless, and she'd be unharmed if I hadn't aggravated her into rushing into the street. He's right, but also saying this out loud at the scene of the accident, just waiting for someone to be like, okay, you're coming with me now, buddy. At least he recognizes that he pushed too hard. I mean, it took a car accident for him to recognize it, but hey, that's something. I mean, he could consider just telling her, but that would go against editorial mandate, and not even Superman is stronger than those. How is she, Doctor? I'm afraid it's a brain concussion. An extremely bad case. Lois needs a special operation to cure her brain concussion, and there's only one doctor who can do it, and no one can find him, so this looks like a job for Superman. Meanwhile, Lois is slipping in and out of consciousness. Where am I? Don't be frightened, Miss Lane. You just underwent a blood transfusion. Superman volunteered his blood. Lois now finds after said transfusion that she feels perfectly fine and can actually just get up and go to work, which astounds the Doctor and Superman. Those stories aren't gonna write themselves. Somewhere there's a ping pong tournament just waiting for her. Business girls can't afford to stay away from their jobs for long. Come on, Clark, before you collapse. Perry yells at Lois for not having the story that she promised and could not care less when Clark tells him that she was in a serious car accident. Hospital and all, Perry doesn't care. But Lois is used to having different standards set for her, and she decides to just just get to work. It's what she came back for anyway. Or maybe Perry is just that much of a loose cannon with everybody, and everybody's just walking around on eggshells, like literally dragging themselves to work across the threshold because if not, he's gonna yell at them. But when Lois sits down to type, she destroys her typewriter, and when she leans on her desk in confusion, she just obliterates it. Then she has an idea, like literally the speech bubble says, idea. She sees a metal cabinet and some workers struggling to move it, and she decides, after they leave of course, that she's gonna give it a go. Silly, this idea of mine that I possess super strength, but here's where I find out. And lo, she lifts it. Superwoman, able to lift metal cabinets in a single bound, more powerful than an office desk. The workers don't believe she moved it, and she also loses all cred when a mouse comes in and drives her onto a chair. Listen, mice are scary. Yes, I'm also that person. Lois decides to go home to try and figure everything out, and then also decides why take a cab when she can see if maybe she could fly. Gosh, it's true. I can do like Superman. But if it's true, I must create an action costume for myself. What's good enough for Superman is good enough for me. Note that Lois already had the fabric for all of this, just laying around, you know, just in case. I'm amazed it wasn't already pre-made. There, all set for high adventure, excitement, and romance as Superwoman. In that order. You go, Lois. Also, yes, the Superwoman logo is inside a heart. Now to look for someone in search of a super being's aid. Lois just gets right to it. Didn't she have a story to write? Wasn't Perry yelling at her? But I mean, he didn't care that she was in a car accident, so he can wait. Her first incident is a domestic disturbance involving a wife throwing things at her husband. Look, this cup or vase actually shattered against him. Hilarious. Hold on, I can feel a laugh coming on. Ha! I'm very sorry, Dorothy. I'll never be late again. She shattered things against his head because he was late. Run, get Superwoman to report it. I can see where a Superwoman can get into plenty of embarrassing situations if she doesn't watch her step. Yes, stopping domestic violence in progress. Truly embarrassing. The next crime she spots, however, is a full-on attempted kidnapping. Metropolis really isn't as safe as people seem to think it is. Let go of that man. Ha, a dame. She's trying to act tough.
We'll show her what it means to be tough.
I'm waiting to be shown. Were you enjoying action, Lois? Kicking butt, taking names, all out of bubblegum? Well, the next panel is about to take the wind out of your sails. This is more fun than knitting socks. Running out on me, eh? Calm down, 1943. I see this panel. I see you. And it turns out the man she was rescuing is Clark Kent. Clark Kent?
Lois Lane, what are you doing in that fantastic getup?
Damn it, Lois, you should have pinned your hair back, just taken the bangs back a bit. You know, any kind of subtle hair change and you're instantly unrecognizable. I bought a green wig. I'm a different person now. Side note, some of you have been asking about it. Yes, I'm gonna wear it, but on a day when it's not so hot. Like, oh my God, it's really hot here today.
I demand an explanation.
She takes Clark up to a secluded rooftop steeple so they can talk. And I don't know why, but I really just like this panel. Something about the positioning of it and just the chillness of this rooftop hangout. I really like it. It's all going well until he asks her, well, what is she planning to do? And she says that she wants to help people like Superman. And then she asks him to keep her secret. And then it just all goes downhill because he says a hard no.
Why should I promise any such thing? This is the newspaper scoop of the century.
Well, Lois can't have that, so she threatens him, flies him around the city. Ooh, I'm gonna drop you. I'm gonna drop you here. I'm gonna leave you here. But if it turns out later that you've betrayed me, I pity you, Clark Kent.
Superpowered Lois doesn't play. Protect the new powers at all costs.
Then she's captured in a net. This is by a villain called Dr. Scowl, who is looking for Superman, but his henchman captured her instead because of the color scheme. See, this is the drawback of theming yourself entirely around somebody else. If people aren't in the know, which not everybody will be, you might get caught up in somebody else's beef. However, Superman bursts in, and then he's taken out by an electrified floor. It was 1943. You could still take out Superman with some mid-level tech. So Lois was taken out by some mystery gas that they shot down with the net, but now it's wearing off. And she's gonna save Superman. He's weakened from all the electricity. We actually get the splash page, but from a different angle. She also just straight up murders Dr. Scowl, turns his own death ray back on him. In the golden age, before the Comics Code Authority, sometimes people just died. Just yeeted right out of the panel. Yeah, I said yeeted. Deal with it.
I don't know what to say.
Then just listen, for I've plenty to say to you. For 5 long years, you've led me a dizzy chase on a romantic merry-go-round. Well, that's all changed. I've some superpowers of my own now, and you're gonna listen to me.
But...
I'm crazy, batty, dippy, and slap happily in love with you, you great, wonderful man. And the point of all this romantic byplay is that I want a definite answer to one little question. Will you marry me?
That is,
I accept.
Yes, she just accepted for him and jumped him. He still does not look remotely interested. Yes, I am uncomfortable.
However, then it all starts to fall apart. They can hear that there's breaking news that Clark Kent, that dastardly reporter, has broken the story that Lois Lane is Superwoman, something that nobody should care about because it's literally her first day. Still, as all this is occurring, she gets dizzy and the world around her dissolves, for it was all a dream. Which, in all fairness, it was established very early on that it was a dream. Even in how we went into the story, it was clearly a dream. This wasn't like a wow, what a crazy dream. There are some nice subtle things inside of it that also highlighted that, like the fact that Lois clearly does not know that Clark is Superman, which you can tell because the depiction of Clark here is subtly different from how he's normally depicted. Lois awakens to find Clark has been waiting for her for hours with flowers, which she accepts, even as she brings herself back to the reality of being regular Lois and not Super Lois. So that was Superwoman, and I really liked it. It's a one and done, you know that's not gonna change anything. But I really liked how Lois was depicted in it overall. And it also had some fascinating things going on for me. One, the parallel of how aggressively both Clark and Lois pursue their respective crushes. Clark drove Lois into the street, and Lois cornered Superman against a wall and was basically like, you're gonna be with me and deal with it. Like, yikes, neither of them have any chill.
They're clearly a match made in heaven because boundaries, what are those?
The other thing was seeing Lois's perception of Clark, in that in her head, clearly he's really aggressive. I mean, I don't blame her though. He did chase her into the street, essentially. She clearly views him as a competent reporter as well, which I don't know when he had time to give her that impression. I know I'm probably going deeper than was intended, but that's the read I got off of it. And that's the fun of fiction. You can examine it from multiple angles and come up with different readings. Another thing to note is just how different this Lois is from, say, the Lois in Superman 123. The comics code really did a number on a lot of DC characters because they were under way more scrutiny than other characters, because lots of the claims that were brought up in, say, the infamous Frederick Wertham's section of The Innocent were about their characters, because their characters were around. Marvel characters didn't exist yet because Marvel doesn't exist till 1961. Before that, they're different companies with different characters. Almost none of the big ones they would become known for would be around prior, like what, Captain America, Namor, the first Human Torch. And all of this results in DC having to develop a certain style that sometimes editorially they have a hard time breaking out of, or at least it takes them longer as the code loosens. You can see a definite shift in pre-code Lois, post-code Lois, and we don't really care as much about the code Lois. This Lois from the 40s is generally stronger. She still has her oh my god marry me Superman moments, but there's also a lot of emphasis on she's a go-getting career girl who takes no nonsense and gets the scoop. That's there in the 50s too, but it's definitely been flipped. Now the whole I want to marry Superman and have his babies has been dialed up to 11. Personally, I can enjoy a story like this on a more genuine level than, say, one of the Silver Age ones, which I do still enjoy, but in more of a what were we doing kind of way. Like, there's an issue of Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane where she quits her job so that she can run a diner because she really wants Superman to eat her food. I'm gonna leave that there for you. But also, that comic actually ran from 1958 to 1974, so it changed a lot along the way. By the end, it had just entirely embraced madness. Let me know if you need a confusing history of Superwoman, and also let me know what you thought of this story and how do you feel about the differences in the different eras of Lois's, if you feel there was one. Or do you think I'm reaching, grasping? Did you enjoy Lois's swole arms? Let me know everything down below, and while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for watching Casually Comics. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing comics with me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.